Welcome to HVAC Talk with Huff. I am Huff. In the last video I did, I talked about the question of how well do we know our technicians. And along that same theme, I was recently talking to a group of technicians and I was asked how to explain something. And it was surrounding humidity, how to explain relative humidity and dehumidification and things like that. And I asked him, I said, well, how do you explain it now? What terms do you use? And it's not that they didn't understand relative humidity and dehumidification, but they really lacked the ability to really explain it to the end user. When they were talking technician to technician, they certainly had a handle on it. They knew what the numbers represented. They knew how to make adjustments to the airflow to better achieve it, how to measure it. They really had a good handle on that part, but what they really struggled in was explaining it. And I can't tell you how many times in my tech support career I've had to talk to end users because they didn't understand something, and when they asked the technician that was there, he or she really didn't explain it very well. And matter of fact, sometimes in some cases got them confused. In some cases, they actually didn't have the right understanding of it and did the opposite of what was needed, especially surrounding dehumidification. I've had times where folks they've go out there and they speed the airflow up, trying to achieve better dehum, and then and this is what they're explaining to the end user, and end user is like, well, I'm not getting any more comfortable, and so they go out and do some internet search, and then they find airflow reduction versus it's just. And so time and time again, I've had to either have conversations over the phone or had to go out to job sites and kind of deal with some of these things. And it was really about messaging. It was just about being able to explain it, being able to understand, the subject matter, and being able to deliver it to the end user in a way that they could understand and that they felt confident that the technician had addressed the situation. And, these kind of things are referred to as soft skills, right? Soft skills are the skills outside of the technical stuff, being able to talk, being able to interact. And I've been saying for a while now that we've got more ways to communicate now than we've ever had, and we're worse at it than we've ever been. We can't even spell correctly anymore, right? Because now we text, we don't even spell words. We just, we use abbreviations. And now sometimes I hear young people talking in abbreviations, right? It's just the time that we live in, and don't want to say anything negative about, the current generation or anything, because this is not about it. This is not about that. This is about us understanding that if we want the right messaging, then we have to take control of that. And so I'm really wanting to reach, the folks who manage the installers and the service technicians, and really implore you to really sit down and have, in your team meetings, start to talk about some of these things, do some role playing. And I've done this recently, and of course it makes people uncomfortable a little bit, the role playing thing, but, I'm just like, okay, I'm a homeowner, and, you're standing there, and I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to explain it to me, and so, I looked at the service ticket and what they had done, the previous day, and I looked at them and I just started asking questions about, what they did, and, well, what does that result in? And, why is that going to make me feel better? How's it going to help me? Whether of course, dehumidification is just one of many things, right? But, I just started asking those questions. Well, why was that part bad? How did you know it was bad? And how do we know it's not going to go bad again? And is there anything I can do? And what, then I started asking about, well, I want a better filter. And so, I found one at Home Depot. Is that okay? And, it was a Merv 843. Is that okay? And started, is it going to hurt my airflow? And just started asking questions and having them respond back. And now, not to make fun of them, but have them respond back and say, okay, is that really the answer? And is that really how you should say that? And once I got them open and started talking, they really, it's like, gosh, we didn't really realize how, we really kind of struggle in this. And, soft skill training, how to talk to folks, how to explain things, how to diffuse, or de-escalate an angry customer, right? The more we help our technicians learn to communicate, the better we're going to be. And so soft skill training has to be something that we actively pursue with our technicians and our installers. Think about an installer that just installed a brand new system, and now this homeowner just paid, whatever. Let's just say they paid $12,000 for a system. Now, some of you guys are going to be balking about that. That's too high, and some guys are like, oh, that's way too low. Don't get hung up on the price, folks. Just imagine that you just paid $12,000 for a HVAC system, whatever it is. And, they're finishing up the last little bit. They're putting that last strip of foil tape, on that plenum, make it look nice and neat, rubbing it in and, cleaning up all their stuff and sweeping up and all the things that they do to make that job look nice and neat. But now I'm like, okay, so how does this thing work? Okay, this is a brand new heat pump system. What's the best way for me to use it? What's the best temperature I should set it on? Should I use setback? Is that going to make any difference? What about, I want to use a better filter. Can I do that? What's that noise that it's making right now? I mean, just imagine that you just paid a bunch of money for a system and now you've got a bunch of questions. And what happens when you have an installer that's not ready to answer those questions? Because I've seen this happen a lot. I've had people work for me that I've had to end up going out and explain a system because they couldn't. And, I look at, that's an issue on me. I needed to make sure that the folks that were installing the stuff understand what they're installing and understand, be able to explain it. What about that new thermostat you just gave them? They just, they had an old mercury thermostat. And now you've put this fancy electronic stat on it and they want to know how to work it, right? They want to know, how do I use the setback on it? How do I program? And too often we see installers, hand folks the book. Well, here's the book. Well, I just paid that much money for a system. I just don't hand me a book. Explain this thing to me. You're supposed to be the expert. You install these things every day, and you're telling me you can't take 2 or 3 minutes and walk me through these screens? Come on now. So, being able to train our folks so that they understand what they're talking about, understand what they're doing, and be able to explain it. Sometimes it's about coaching them up, knowing, especially if let's say you're going to send a customer, a technician to a customer's house where you already know, what the issue is, and you're sending them there now to make the repair, right? Coach them up. Saying, hey, you're going to go out and make this repair. This customer's been unhappy. This is why we're doing what we're doing. And so when you get done, I want you to take a moment in time, walk them through what you did, and coach them up on how to address that customer. So when they get there and they take care of that customer, and then they explain things to them, and they were prepared when they got there, that makes all the difference in the world. If a technician goes to a job with a part, and the homeowner starts asking, well, why are you doing that part? I don't know. The office told me to come put this part in. Okay, so you sent someone out here who doesn't even understand my trouble, doesn't even understand my problem, and they're just going to come here and slap a part in, which means is that if they don't even know what the issue is and they're just putting that part on, how do I know that they're going to make sure that that part is going to fix the problem? Right? Soft skills. We need to get back to understanding how to communicate. And not only how to communicate, but I want you to think about this. How do you want it communicated, your company to your customer? Right? Now, you may explain things a little different than I do. That's fine. It's your company. So, think about these folks are the face of your company. What message do you want to have? I've seen issues where I've seen salesmen sell a heat pump, right? The folks had an air conditioner. And the air conditioner had a compressor failure, and so they go back out with a heat pump. They sold them on a heat pump, and then the installer goes out there to put the heat pump. They're like, "Yeah, we got, we decided to go with the heat pump instead of the air conditioner." And literally, I've heard about installers. I've talked to folks where this has happened. Installers like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I just would have went back with an air conditioner. They're cheaper, and you're not really going to save that much." I mean, just absolutely destroy the sale. end user was really unhappy. I mean, now that's an extreme situation, but just all too often, one of the things that maybe a salesman was out there and they really capitalized on this homeowner's desire for a specific outcome. And then when they are excited about the day that this equipment's arriving and they're getting installed and they're telling the installer that, yeah, I really wanted this because of that. And then the installer acts like it's really not that big a deal. It's like, well, yeah, it does that, I guess, they're just sorely disappointed. Right? The salesman seemed excited about it. The homeowner was excited about it, but then the installer acts like it's really not that big of a benefit. It just messes up the messaging, right? So soft skills training is about being able to communicate, being able to explain, and also make sure that your messaging and your branding is what you want to be projected out there in the marketplace. So take time, make sure that you work with your technicians and your installers to make sure that he or she really understands what they're doing. Coach them up on those difficult jobs when they're going out there to be with that difficult customer. Coach them up. Help them, understand how to de-escalate an angry customer. Help them understand, how to get that heat and ratchet it back down a little bit and get things kind of under control. Also, coach them up on how to address the situation if they can't get the thing, the end user de-escalated. What's their next step, right? Give them an out, right? Give the installer or technician, say, listen, if you can't get this thing de-escalated and they're just really, really angry, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop for a moment and say, listen, I'm going to call the office. Coach them up so they know what to do, because otherwise they'll get flustered. And I've seen them take a bad situation and make it even worse. And so make sure you're coaching your folks even on how to talk. It's important. It's your company's face out there. You want to do the best you can there. So soft skills, if you need help with it, let us know. Or if you just want to talk about it and ask for some ideas and suggestions, we'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. We'll put our information down in the description, and shoot us an email and we'll set up a time to chat. But got to be coaching our folks up. So everybody stay safe. Always take care of your family first. They're the most important. See you on the flip side.